Today, we're zeroing in on a topic that really sits at the intersection of identity and intimacy, cross-dressing. But we are deliberately moving past the usual discussions. So this isn't about self-expression or erotic play, although those things can definitely be part of it.
Sure, they can be a component.
What our sources reveal is that for many long-term couples, this practice is actually functioning as, a surprisingly profound tool for deepening intimacy, for really revolutionizing their communication.
It's a huge discovery for them.
We have a stack of fascinating research here, and the mission is just to cut straight to that relational impact. The central concept that keeps coming up, the one that underpins everything for the couples in our study, is what the sources have termed the feminine lens.
That phrase, the feminine lens, is absolutely the key. And it's so important to understand that we are defining something far beyond just the visual presentation.
Right. It's not just the clothes or the makeup.
No, not at all. It's the conscious or sometimes unconscious emotional posture that the crossdresser adopts when they present femininely. The sources detail that this lens involves a palpable softening of energy, an increased, almost hypervigilant attention to relational cues, and a very deliberate shift towards empathy, towards attunement.
So it's about being emotionally receptive. It sounds like an active shift in priority then. You're moving from, say, a performance mindset.
One partner described their spouse, they called them Sarah, when presenting femininely, as being completely present in a way that John, their masculine identity, often wasn't.
Okay.
So for instance, when the partner came home stressed from work, John might have immediately jumped into problem-solving mode or, just changed the subject.
The classic fix-it response.
But Sarah, operating through this feminine lens, would prioritize validation. They would just stop, listen, and focus only on acknowledging that feeling of overwhelm. No demand for an immediate fix.
And that conscious shift, that's the lens in action.
That's it. It's creating a deliberate, safe space for that vulnerability to just exist.
And that intentionality is our core mission today. Understanding how this new emotional posture creates this transformative feedback loop for a richer, more nuanced emotional exchange.
Precisely. It's the transformation of the relational dynamics themselves, moving them from, say, transactional to emotionally receptive.
That brings us directly to the first major effect the couples documented, the softening of emotional boundary. Partners consistently report that when their loved one adopts this feminine presentation, they perceive a heightened sensitivity, a kind of gentleness in the interaction. And that makes previously difficult conversations suddenly accessible.
And that gentleness isn't just an illusion. I mean, there's a strong mechanism at play here.
Okay, what's happening under the hood?
The act of expressing femininity requires intense self-awareness in the crossdresser. They're managing their presentation, reading social cues, integrating this new part of their identity.
Right. A lot is going on internally.
A ton. And that acute attention to their own internal state, it just naturally spills over. They become hyper-attuned to their partner's feelings, spotting subtle cues they might have completely missed before.
I have to pause here and ask, though, does this softening risk reinforcing stereotypes? That only feminine expression allows for sensitivity, while masculine expression is always emotionally closed off.
That's a great question, and the sources absolutely address it. The nuance is crucial here. This softening is not about weakness or, adopting some kind of stereotype. It is specifically about openness.
Openness, not weakness.
Got it. The sources are clear that the crossdresser is essentially modeling vulnerability first. They might express a deep-seated anxiety about their appearance or a desire for a specific kind of affection related to their presentation.
So they go first.
They go first. By modeling that courage, by saying, here's a vulnerable part of me, they encourage their partner to mirror that same openness. And this becomes the pathway for suppressed emotions to finally come to light.
That makes the vulnerability itself the currency, doesn't it? It sounds like what the sources call vulnerability as relational currency.
It is precisely that. I mean, think about the level of courage and trust required here.
It's immense.
To present femininely, especially if it was a hidden part of your identity, you're exposing yourself to the deepest fears of rejection or judgment. But when that raw identity-level vulnerability is met with acceptance, with love, it's not just a nice moment.
No, it's a catalyst.
It's a profound relational catalyst. It sets the stage for this dramatic, generalized shift.
If you can trust your partner with the secret of who you are, then, well, every other area of emotional honesty just gets easier. It normalizes truth-telling.
It solidifies trust in a way that, frankly, years of conventional therapy might not achieve. One of the couples even noted that before this, they communicated on a 5-point emotional scale. After this shared vulnerability, they said they suddenly had access to an emotional scale of 50.
Wow, that's a perfect segue. If that intense trust is the foundation, then the next step is how they actually build on it. And that's where empathy comes in, right?
Yes, Section 2 highlights that empathy and attunement are just dramatically enhanced. Attunement means becoming incredibly responsive to the relational context.
Noticing the small things.
Exactly. The crossdresser, already so focused on cues, frequently embodies this heightened sensitivity. They notice those tiny shifts in their partner's tone or posture or mood.
And crucially, the partner learns to read the crossdresser's presentation cues too. So it's a feedback loop.
It's a beautiful feedback loop. Let's take a practical example. A couple might be discussing a minor irritation, leaving dishes in the sink.
The classic.
The classic. In the past, this might escalate into a defensive argument, but now, facilitated by that modeled openness, the crossdresser's attunement might prompt them to ask, hey, is this really about the dishes, or are you feeling unrecognized and just exhausted?
A total reframe.
Instantly. The conversation evolves from a superficial complaint into a deep exchange about underlying feelings.
So the structure for openness facilitates that transition. And the sources note how this enhances their decoding skills. It's almost like the presentation itself provides a visual language.
The context provides a structured space for exploring emotional cues. The choice of outfit, the specific makeup, these become nonverbal signals of mood or comfort level.
So a bold look might mean one thing.
Right. A vibrant, bold look might signal confidence and a desire for playful interaction. A softer, simpler presentation might signal a need for comfort and quiet connection.
And partners learn to interpret these signals far more accurately. Before, they might have just seen a bad mood.
And now, because they've practiced connecting specific visual states with internal feelings, they can articulate the differences between anxiety, deep disappointment, and simple fatigue. That specificity is the upgrade.
And that creates a relational rhythm that's responsive, not just during cross-dressing, but in all their interactions.
They've essentially doubled their vocabulary of connection. They've gone from communicating in black and white to, full nuanced color.
Let's shift gears to an element that injects some essential levity here. The role of playfulness. Whether it's trying on new outfits, experimenting with a dramatic new look, the inherent element of play introduces this crucial, lighthearted, creative energy.
And this lightheartedness is maybe the most underrated tool for relational longevity. Playfulness acts as a powerful psychological buffer.
How so?
It just reduces the tension and the stakes around sensitive conversations. It lets partners approach difficult topics with humor, with curiosity, instead of defensiveness.
You mentioned an example earlier about diffusing conflict with play.
Yes. One partner recounted a time they were about to have a very tense talk about their budget, a topic that usually ended in resentment.
Oh, another classic.
Right. So instead of sitting down seriously, the crossdresser emerged wearing a comically oversized, slightly ridiculous hat.
I love that.
It immediately signaled we're entering a safe, silly, low-stakes space now, and they were able to have the budget talk with so much less defensiveness because the context was intentionally shifted. It encourages emotional risk-taking.
That's brilliant. And that connects perfectly to what the sources call emotional rituals. Shared activities like picking an outfit or the intimate act of preparing hair and makeup together. These become structured opportunities.
These rituals are so much more than just logistics. They are formal check-ins for conversation, for feedback, for relational alignment.
And they allow partners to express care in these subtle, embodied ways. A gesture while fixing a collar, a specific compliment.
And because they are nonverbal and woven into the physical act, they convey so much validation and affection without needing these heavy, sometimes intimidating verbal declarations.
Right.
These rituals strengthen emotional literacy because they provide a non-threatening context for discussing values and boundaries. You're not just talking about a silk dress, you're discussing comfort with public expression, with identity all wrapped up in a fun, shared activity.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This concept of building a whole new system of signaling and feedback. It seems like the ultimate payoff is that it fundamentally expands the relational language itself.
Yes.
But how does describing, one's internal feelings about presentation translate to arguing about who takes out the trash?
It translates through articulation and capacity. The act of embodying femininity requires a level of detailed self-description. The cross-dresser has to articulate their feelings of excitement or discomfort. The partner is then trained to actively listen and reflect on those subtle details.
So just practicing being more specific.
They're practicing, and that creates a capacity for much more nuanced dialogue about all their needs and desires. If you can articulate the complex feeling of relief mixed with fear when wearing a certain item of clothing,
You can certainly articulate the difference between simple annoyance and genuine overwhelm about finances.
you've got it. It's the training ground. And it refines the verbal, but it also elevates the nonverbal communication.
How does that work?
Well, movement, posture, gestures, they become deeply integral to the dialogue. Because they're paying such close attention to the visual presentation, is the posture confident? Is the movement tentative? Partners just become far more perceptive to all physical cues.
So the communication becomes more holistic, less intellectual, more embodied. We have to acknowledge the friction here, though. The sources are careful to address the challenge of navigating fear and acceptance. This practice can provoke significant anxiety.
Fear of social judgment, identity concerns.
And for the partner, confusion about attraction or the future of the relationship.
Those initial fears are what often inhibit the openness in the first place. A common fear reported was the fear of losing sexual attraction, that if the partner embraced this feminine identity, the masculine one that started the attraction would just disappear.
That tension is real. So how do they move past that?
The movement past fear is achieved through collaborative negotiation, and that process strengthens their relational resilience immensely.
So it's not just acceptance, it's co-creation.
It's co-creation. That's a perfect term for it. They might start by defining times and places where the feminine expression feels safe, and then gradually expand that space. This constant open negotiation, especially when met with unconditional support, serves as the ultimate validation.
The relationship itself becomes the safe container.
Exactly. A container designed for exploring vulnerability and desire at the same time, transforming that initial fear into mutual respect and deep transparency.
So what does this all mean? The overarching theme here is that cross-dressing, viewed through this relational lens, becomes a kind of practice in relational sophistication. It trains both partners in attentive listening, empathetic reflection, and transparent negotiation. And those skills, they don't stay in a box.
No, they spill over.
They spill over and enhance every other aspect of life. Conflict resolution, decision-making, they just become better partners, period.
And for you, the listener, whether you're exploring this dynamic or just curious about applying these insights, the sources offer 3 practical strategies. First, schedule time for shared reflection. This means dedicated, non-argumentative time to just discuss feelings and reactions. Second, cultivate radical curiosity rather than judgment about the dynamics you encounter. Approach your partner's vulnerabilities as puzzles to solve together, not flaws to manage. Embrace play and ritual. Intentionally lower the stakes of sensitive conversations using lighthearted actions and shared structures to build that trust.
When you look at it this way, cross-dressing challenges our most fundamental assumptions about relationships.
It demonstrates that emotional communication isn't inherently tied to sex or gender. It's tied to intentional vulnerability, to attunement, to courage.
It shows that attraction and affection are truly multidimensional.
Inextricably intertwining emotional richness and sexual satisfaction through shared identity exploration. And it proves that the very thing you hide can sometimes be the thing that connects you most deeply.
It's a powerful affirmation that intentional self-expression, no matter how unconventional it might seem, can be the catalyst for the deepest possible intimacy.